Okay, now everybody seems to think that the Fair Housing Act protects everybody. That's not entirely true. There are several groups of people. Here's one that does not get or has some exemptions, and maybe it's apropos that we talk about it today, since today is my 55th birthday. HOPA, the Housing for Older People, was repealed requirements intended for those that are 55 and over. Sweet, I make it as of today. I didn't say senior. Watch your mouth back there. It's amazing how old is always, when I was your age, I thought 55 was old. Now I'm like, 55 is not that bad. Maybe it's 75. Housing for older people are designed to be discriminatory in nature on age. Age is actually one of the most discriminated attributes we do all the time. 16 to drive, 18 to vote, 21 to drink, 55 to get the good menu at Denny's. So, it's always been, there are companies that build requirements that have protection under HOPA, housing for older persons. Says that you have to have 80% of the occupants have to be at least 55 or older. There have been people that come to me and go, hey, wait a minute, they won't let my son live with me. Isn't that, I love it when people automatically go to the fair housing. They go, well, isn't that racist? Well, first of all, no, that would be ageist, not racist. Or familial status. But the problem is they're not saying that they can't live with you because they're your kid. They're saying that your kid's not 55. And they have an exemption for this in these companies. There's a company here in town called CDI that builds housings for older people. All right? 80% of the occupants have to have one person, 55 or older, living with them. So that's the exemption. We talked about the fact that HUD is the people that oversee the fair housing. And we'll talk about what happens if you think there's been a violation, how you get a hold of HUD, how long you have, and things like that. All right? So this is a housing act. So we need to once again, go over some of the definitions so that everybody knows what we're talking about. So it protects people in housing or dwelling. And a dwelling is any building that is designed or built for human occupancy. Single-family homes, trailers, condos, co-ops, apartment buildings, or, and here's the kicker, or any land that is to be one of those built on. So if you're selling vacant lots in a housing addition, technically there's no house on it yet, but because it's designed to have a house built on it, the sale of that land would include fair housing issues. All right? Now, if you're selling 25-acre farmland, no fair housing issues. Commercial buildings, no fair housing issues. Those are not designed for occupancy. So just keep that in mind, that fair housing only deals with dwellings, and dwelling is defined as being occupied by a human for living. Now, I'm not saying that in the commercial world they blatantly say we don't want any Martians, but I'm just saying that fair housing is not a rule that applies to commercial property, large pieces of land, all of that. Family. Here's a great quote, and I cannot believe that no politician has ever jumped on this. I don't care where you stand in Roe versus Wade, but listen to what HUD, a government agency, has said a family is. A family is defined as one or more individuals under the age of 18 living with a parent or guardian. It also includes a woman who is pregnant. So HUD has determined when life begins. Because if a female is pregnant, she gets familial or family protection. All right? So keep that in mind. Tricycle motors, too many tricycle motors. You guys know what that is? Those kids? No, okay, never mind. Never heard them called tricycle motors? No. Rugrats?
Oh, yeah. Tricycle motors, I get it.
Yeah, tricycle motors. A disability is any physical or mental impairment that limits the quality of life by an individual. Any physical or mental impairment that may limit the quality of life for an individual. Must make reasonable accommodations and have policies and practices and services to permit people with disabilities to have equal enjoyment of the premises. This is what I was telling you. That friend of mine did not show the 11th story rental unit to the guy in a wheelchair, and the guy said, "You did not treat me equal. You would have showed everybody else the 11th story. You did not show me. Therefore, you're in violation." Do not try and throw logic into this. That's what I said.
Another rule, though, is that they can't sign contracts if they're not mentally able to. So how are you going to do both?
So the question is, if they're not mentally competent, how do they sign contracts? They could have someone sign for them, a parent or a guardian. But I will tell you that typically you have a good point. A lot of the fair housing stuff that you see that's a problem, very few of it is a mental handicapped issue. Typically it's a physical or racial. All right? Now, we talked about housings for older people, and I told you that they were an exemption. There are some other exemptions to this that I want to cover. The first one being owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units. So if you have a 4-unit building and you live in one of the 4 units, you could potentially be exempt from the Fair Housing Clause. Doesn't mean you always will be. Means you could potentially, you may have the right to say, because I live here, I have some say in who the other people are. Single-family homes sold or rented without the use of a real estate professional, without the use of one of us. Once we get involved, you guys ought to be smart enough to tell your client, hey, you can't do that. Once a professional is involved, it is our job to say, you cannot do that. All right? So if they sell their home for sale by owner without the use of us, potentially they may say, sorry, don't want that. All right? Housings operated by organizations and private clubs that limit occupancy to members. Clear as mud, right? What this is saying is, it is legal. Let's say the Hells Angels own a house, all right? And they put it up for sale. They can literally say, sorry, we only sell to other Hells Angel members. As long as becoming a member of the Hells Angels is not discriminatory based on one of those 7 practices, they can say that. Fraternal Order of Eagles, social club, right? We only sell to other members of the group. You want to buy it? Become a member of the group. As long as becoming a member of the group is not violating the 7 protected classes. So up until a few years ago, for example, the Girl Scouts couldn't do this. It used to not be legal for males to join the Girl Scouts. So the Girl Scouts couldn't say, we only sell to other Girl Scouts. Well, that's a violation. Because as a male, I can't be a member of the Girl Scouts. So that's violating one of the 7 protected classes. You can't do that. Which I never understood because we still have curves for women, right? The workout place. That's only female. It shouldn't be around. It's a violation. We got ladies' nights at bars. Ladies, get in free, no cover. That's sexist. I went in. I identify as a 63-year-old male. I want my Social Security. The rental of rooms to an owner-occupied building with no more than 4 units. Once again, if you're renting out rooms like dormitories, actually in dormitories where you share housing, it is very legal to say wanted white male Christian. I can say that because I'm sharing rooms for like dormitories. Here's some other exemptions. The sale or rental of a home when the home is owned by an individual who does not own more than 3 homes at one time and a real estate professional is not involved. So let's break that down. Who would own more than 3 homes at one time? A rich person, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. A landlord, right? And if you're a landlord, which means you make your business through housing, you should know the rules. All right? So that's what it's saying here. If you have less than 3 houses and you're selling a home and not using an agent, there's an exemption in there for you. There's an exemption in there for you. Now, I don't know where it's at, but I want to cover it right now so that we know for a fact. At no time is there ever an exemption for race. Never. None. 9. Kaput. Niet. Everybody know Japanese for no? Is it no? I don't think it's no. Somebody Google. Google, what's the Japanese for no? No. None. All right? Yeah, because I read Japanese all the time. What is it? Does it give me a phonetic pronunciation? It says no. What's it say on the bottom? Sounds like no. What I'm telling you is never, ever, 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 ever is there a exemption for race. But I've got a 2-bedroom house that I rent out. Lady shows up, she's pregnant, and 4 kids. And I say, sorry, you have too many kids. And she said, that's a violation of the familial discrimination. No, it's not. There's a health and safety law that says I am only allowed to put 2 people per bedroom on average in a house. You literally have too many people to violate the health code. That's an exemption. I can be discriminatory on that family. You have too many children. We already talked about the guy in the wheelchair. I cannot rent to you because I do not have the money to convert the house to it. If he offers the money and has removed that burden, then I have to. So there are exemptions to a bunch of these fair houses. Never race. Remember, it's the Big Mama Luca. It's the one we started with. Never an exemption for race. All right?